3 guesses and 2 minutes before the data is wiped. The team scrambles, trying to figure out what password Franz might have used. After going through Franz's character, O'Donnell suggests that Franz respected Reacher the most. Neagley enters the password, Reacher, and it works, leaving Reacher emotional. At LAX, AM is now going by the alias Andrew McBride. He strikes up a conversation with a young boy interested in his comic book, explaining that he loves comics because the good guys always win. He's then informed by the ticket agent that his booking to Denver, Colorado has been completed. Back at the hotel, Neagley prints out a list of names with the initials AM, and Reacher theorizes these are aliases, carefully chosen so the person would never need to change their signature. They also print out 7 pages containing a random series of numbers, with no clear order or explanation. The trio then heads to Queens to check on Swan. At his apartment, they find his dog, Maisie, dead from dehydration. Reacher deduces that Swan has been dead for some time, as he would never let Maisie suffer. Convinced someone is targeting their group, Reacher becomes even more determined to find their pursuers and stop them from eliminating his team. As they exit Swan's residence, Reacher notices the black sedan from earlier tailing them again. He confronts the driver, knocking him out cold. Neagley checks the driver's ID and discovers he's NYPD detective Guy Russo. Realizing the connection, the team flees, but O'Donnell criticizes Reacher for his recklessness, pointing out that now he'll be a wanted man. Neagley recognizes Russo as one of the officers handling Franz's murder case. Reacher theorizes that the NYPD became aware of Franz's call to Neagley and her purchase of the plane ticket, though the exact reason remains unclear. O'Donnell attempts to contact Jorge Sanchez and Manuela Roscoe, but finds their voicemail full. With little luck, Reacher suggests heading to Atlantic City to search for Sanchez and Orozco. Meanwhile, the scarred man calls Shane Langston to update him on the situation and requests backup. Langston orders him to continue tailing the group. At the airport parking lot, Neagley and O'Donnell argue about where to get a new vehicle, but Reacher spots Carla Dixon, a member of their old unit. Dixon had been deep undercover in Texas for a corporate embezzlement case and hadn't gotten the message until now. Reacher fills her in on the situation and asks her to rent a car using her fake ID. Dixon agrees and joins them in the investigation. Back in their military days, Dixon had brought Reacher's attention to an aviation fuel theft case in Afghanistan. Dixon suggested that the stolen fuel wasn't just for profit, but rather for C-17s ferrying Humvees back to the US. Dixon had also noticed there were no black market fuel deals around the area, which led her to suspect the plane was intentionally overfueled. However, the amount of fuel when the plane landed was as expected. Reacher realized the excess weight wasn't fuel, but heavy contraband hidden inside the Humvees. Reacher decided to investigate further, though Dixon's suggestion for him to buy her a beer to celebrate was met with rejection. In the present, Dixon examines the series of random numbers left by Franz but can't make sense of them. She points out that the 1st, 4th, 6th, and 7th pages contain 26 numbers, while the 5th has 27. O'Donnell suggests James Barr might be behind the murders, but Reacher quickly disproves this, recalling Barr owed him a favor when they crossed paths in Indiana. As they continue down the road, the scarred man determines that Dixon's alias was used to rent the vehicle and informs Langston, who is pleased to hear they are all in one place. Langston orders his man to take them out by the next day. In Atlantic City, the team arrives at Sanchez and Orozco's workplace, only to find it in a similar state to all the other properties linked to their unit, except Swan's. While searching, O'Donnell finds the photo from their first night together. Reacher realizes he's the only member without one. He comes across a framed photo of Sanchez and a woman at the bar and decides this is their next lead. They head to Lucky's Lounge, where Reacher and Neagley question the woman's whereabouts while Dixon and O'Donnell stay outside. The pair are led into the office by 2 patrons, while Milena, the woman in the photo, is warned by the bartender to escape. Dixon and O'Donnell give chase while Reacher and Neagley fight off the staff's ambush attempt. Dixon manages to catch Milena, who apologizes for running, explaining she recognized their faces from Sanchez's old photos. She assures them the staff was just looking out for her safety. Milena tells them that a scarred man, claiming to work with Sanchez and Orozco, asked her a week ago if Sanchez had left a digital storage device with her. Sensing something was wrong, Milena called Sanchez, but he didn't answer. She suspects something went wrong. O'Donnell asks Milena about Orozco's connection to Franz and Swan. Milena confirms they were working on a case together and had visited the bar a couple of weeks ago, mentioning Swan's name but not the operation. Milena is shocked to hear about Franz's death, which leads her to wonder if Sanchez and Orozco are dead too. Neagley reassures her that it's unconfirmed. Milena recalls Sanchez's last encounter, where he received a call with the phrase 650 at 100K each. which worried him enough to leave the bar in a hurry, believing the amount of money involved might have been stolen from a casino. The team heads to Neptune Casino. They theorize that Sanchez and Orozco had worked as freelance security and stumbled upon something big, possibly reaching out to Franz for help. When a waitress named Ellie asks for their order, Richter instead asks to speak with the director of security. They meet David Wright, who recognizes them from Sanchez and Orozco's stories. Wright is shocked to hear about their potential deaths. Dixon asks him to analyze the numbers, but he can't make sense of them either. Richter informs Wright about a possible gambling scam, but Wright insists all the casino's money is accounted for. He offers to speak with the competitors to see if they know anything related to the case, and allows the team to stay in a suite for the night while he processes their request. In the suite, the team starts opening up about their personal lives. Dixon talks about how her engagement ended after she thought her fiancé was cheating, but it turned out he was just texting his niece. At first, she was upset, but later she felt relieved because she realized she didn't want a relationship that was stable but boring. The breakup led her to take on a deep undercover mission. Neagley shares that she's been working to save money for her dad's nursing care. Richter, however, talks about how he enjoys his nomadic lifestyle and sees the regular world as a cage. He likes the freedom and avoids getting tied down. When Dixon asks if he ever feels lonely, he doesn't answer, keeping his emotions to himself. Later that night, Richter sneaks out to analyze the numbers Franz left behind. While walking through the casino, he sees Dixon at a blackjack table, winning easily with her skills. She's accused of counting cards and politely asked to leave. The scarred man sitting nearby notices everything. Dixon and Richter go for a late-night walk, and she talks about her dream of exposing government corruption, especially how they waste taxpayer money. She wants to start a non-profit to help people who really need it. As they talk, she wonders why their relationship never happened back in the military. Richter says it wasn't professional, and they both agree it never felt like the right time. They notice two men following them. Richter spots their car and suggests they lead them to a construction site. A fight breaks out. Richter takes one down with a trowel, while Dixon uses the other man as a shield to stop the second. Richter tracks down the scarred man and drowns him in cement before they bury the bodies. They don't find any IDs on the men, but discover a burner phone with Langston's number. Richter calls Langston, who warns them things won't end well but seems nervous before hanging up. In the car, they find profiles of themselves and a New Age Technologies parking pass from the day before. Richter realizes they're up against some serious professionals. The two head back to the hotel and treat each other's injuries from the fight. They end up sleeping together, and their connection deepens. The next morning, outside Denver, AM meets a man who tells him that 650 weapons are being transported on a truck, and they can track it with a GPS. The man gives him a map with two possible ambush points. AM reassures him that the weapons are for overseas use and the driver won't be harmed. Back in Atlantic City, Richter and Dixon update the team. Wright visits and tells them that Sanchez and Orozco's bodies were found in the Catskill Mountains. They have injuries similar to Franz's, and they've been there for a while. Wright also says that no one used the AM aliases to check into hotels in the area. Orozco and Sanchez weren't working for any competitors either. The team looks into the gambling scam, but the competitors already did their audits and the losses were within acceptable limits. Dixon puts the pieces together and thinks the case is tied to New York. Richter, still angry about his former teammates' deaths, decides they need more weapons to deal with what's coming next. In New Age, Calvin Franz is enduring severe torture at the hands of Shane Langston's men, trying to get him to spill information. Despite having both legs broken and being brutally beaten, Franz holds on and defiantly spits blood in Langston's face. Furious, Langston orders his men to take Franz to a helicopter. High above the Catskill Mountains, Langston gives Franz one last chance to reveal what they want, but Franz wonders what the big guy will do to him. Langston, annoyed, gives the order to dump him out of the helicopter. As the doors close, Langston is left wondering who the big guy really is. In the present, Richter is at a gun shop, bribing the owner, Frank Majeski, into selling him weapons without waiting for official paperwork. On their drive back to New York, Richter and Dixon joke about O'Donnell's poor shooting skills. Neagley uncovers a motel called Jade East in Belt Parkway, which could serve as a hideout. As they banter, they don't realize they're being followed by a police cruiser. The officer signals them to pull over. Richter asks Dixon to stop, and after a moment, Russo arrives and arrests Richter. Once identified, Richter asks O'Donnell to act as his lawyer since he has some legal experience from Rutgers. He also tasks Neagley and Dixon with investigating New Age. O'Donnell accompanies Richter to the station with Russo. During the drive, Russo reveals that he tracked them by getting security footage from the car rental companies at the airport. Recognizing them when they rented a car, he kept tabs on them, tracking the plate and making sure it came back to New York when the cruiser spotted them. While in the back seat, Richter and O'Donnell discover a bag full of kids' toys, which annoys Richter. At New Age, Dixon and Neagley meet with the director of operations, Marlo Burns, to dig into the parking pass they found. They tell her about the current case and get her cooperation by mentioning the victims were close to them. Marlo eventually reveals the parking pass belongs to Trevor Seropian, who had been chasing after them and was killed by Richter. Seropian had come in for an interview offering maintenance services, but was rejected since their operation was too small. Marlo gives them Seropian's address since the company still has his resume on file. Back at the station, Richter realizes he was arrested only because they wanted information related to his case. Since his arrest hasn't been processed, Russo starts to see that their investigation is interfering with his. Reluctantly, they agree to exchange information. Driven by a shared desire to solve the case, Russo reveals that Franz's phone logs show multiple calls to O'Donnell, Sanchez, Swan, and Orozco, but none to Richter, who doesn't carry a phone. Richter, sensing an opportunity, proposes a deal where they share information. They mention the phrase 650 at 100K, which they believe means $65 million, but they still can't figure out how it's connected or what the money is for. When Russo suggests that Richter's friends were criminals involved in this, Richter gets angry, accusing Russo of being a dirty cop. He points out how Russo had tailed them without properly identifying himself, and gathered information without making a formal arrest, which kept things off the books. Russo denies being corrupt, but the tension calms down when O'Donnell steps in, asking for everyone to keep the integrity and share what they know. Russo then announces they found a suspect from a memory card left inside a printer at Franz's office. The print reveals a man named Azari Mahmoud, known to Interpol as a weapons broker for terrorist organizations. Sanchez's notes indicate he's a person of interest. Richter realizes that Sanchez and Orozco had been digging into this for Franz's case. Noticing Mahmoud's name has the initials AM, Richter writes down the list of suspects and tells Russo to have DHS flag all of his aliases. As the gravity of the case sets in, Richter and O'Donnell realize it's far bigger than they initially thought. Back in their military days, Tony Swan, Richter, Dixon, and O'Donnell are at a crime scene outside an officers' club, where a man, Private Sims, was shot in the back. O'Donnell thinks it's just a bar fight gone wrong, but Swan insists Sims wasn't involved in any fight. Richter figures out